Sunday morning on CBS. And here again is Charles Osgood.
Andy Williams recorded Moon River in 1961. And he sings it still, much to the delight of his many fans. Cynthia Bowers caught up with Andy Williams in Branson, Missouri for this Sunday Profile.
I only know what I know. The past things will show. You kept my love so young, so new.
After almost 75 years as a professional, Andy Williams knows a thing or two about putting on a show. And it all begins with a tried and true ritual. He warms up his pipes in the shower. He dresses, always looking sharp.
Showbiz.
Burns off a little energy backstage. A quick check of the fly, and then showtime.
Call me irresponsible. Call me unreliable.
It's fun, it's family friendly, without being hokey, you know?
Good, that's what we want.
So lucky to be loving you.
He's pushing 82, but still pounding out the melodies. Williams does 6 shows a week at his own theater in Branson, Missouri. He's recorded hundreds of songs in his career, so there's plenty to choose from. But he always includes Moon River.
Moon River, wider than a mile.
It's been his signature song ever since he used it to open the TV show that made him a star.
You dream maker, you heartbreaker.
From 1962 until 1971, The Andy Williams Show aired on NBC.
L is for the way you look at me.
The show was very popular. And then when you have a really popular television show, everybody wants to get on it.
From Basie
Lucky to be.
to Bennett
There is no other life.
to Bing.
I ride the range in my Buick 8. Yippee-i-oh-ki-yay.
The biggest stars of the time appeared beside Andy, including Judy Garland in 1965. It's an appearance Williams remembers most fondly for a comedy sketch they performed.
Makeup is very important.
Yes, we got the dressing table, and then she started to show me how to put on makeup. And eventually she ends up putting powder on a great big pillow and whacking it with it. Anyway, it was really funny. It was a great bit. It really was.
Andy Williams was a natural for TV, it seemed, able to play the straight man in comedy sketches, dance a little, and sing a lot.
I feel a song coming on.
His musical range allowed him to seamlessly duet with any singer, whether singing R&B with Ray Charles,
Tell your mama, tell your pa, gonna send you back to Arkansas.
rock and roll with the Beach Boys,
First gear, it's alright. Second gear, lean right.
or pop standards with Vic Damone.
She flutters by, catching every eye, dancing in the light, what a sight, pretty butterfly.
It wasn't just established stars. The Andy Williams Show helped launch new careers.
And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Elton John.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside.
And then there were the Osmonds,
What is your name?
Donnie.
who charmed the audience when they appeared in 1963.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, don't be maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. She's real good looker. Yes, sir.
Everybody wanted to see him again. So I said, would you like to come back next week? And they said, oh, yes, sir. And so they did. They came back for 6 years, every week.
And they virtually grew up before America's eyes. The Osmonds reminded Williams of another family, his own. In Williams' new memoir, he details how he and his brothers began their singing career to fulfill a dream, their father's dream.
That wasn't my passion to sing, it was his. It was his passion to do something with us.
Williams grew up in a tiny Iowa town called Wall Lake. His father, a railroad worker, had big plans for his 4 singing sons.
And I think he would do anything he could to get out of Wall Lake, Iowa, and to move on.
The family moved to Des Moines, and before long, the Williams brothers landed a radio job.
This is the Iowa Barn Dance Frolic coming to you from the stage of the Shrine Auditorium from WHO Des Moines.
Andy was 7.
We were on the Iowa Barn Dance Frolic for about 6 years.
The boys' father would urge them to practice, to do better, with a tough message.
You're not quite as good as the rest, so you've got to work harder. Which, for a little kid, that stuck in my mind.
It worked?
Well, yeah, I did, because we did work harder. And I did all my life.
The brothers' big success came years later when they teamed up with singer-songwriter Kay Thompson after the family had moved to Los Angeles.
And the act was so exciting. And so it was just jam-packed all the time. So we were suddenly making more money than anybody. I mean, it was just phenomenal.
The act broke up after a couple of years, and Andy struggled as a soloist, but he eventually landed his first TV job, singing on The Tonight Show with Steve Allen in 1954.
So I could go now into better places and sing, pop songs and do a different kind of act, do a singing act.
There's love in the air.
Williams was becoming a star. And in 1960, he was featured on CBS's Person to Person.
Do you think you'll ever settle down in one place long enough to get married?
Well, I think I'll get married as far as...
Not long after this interview, he met Claudine Longet, then a young dancer in Las Vegas.
But you met her in the most bizarre way.
Well, she was pushing her car down the highway in Las Vegas, and my manager and I were driving down there, and we saw this lovely girl and her girlfriend, who was also quite pretty, pushing this car, and so being gallant, and also because they looked very good.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We stopped to see if we could help them.
Within a year, the couple was married. That was 1961. They had 3 children, and the whole family would often appear together on Andy's famous Christmas specials.
It's over now. You've had your fun.
But the pressures of a performer's life would take their toll on the marriage. Andy and Claudine split in 1975.
So we just sort of grew apart. I was never home.
Do you regret that?
Yes, I do.
For the kids or for the marriage?
Well, for the marriage, for the kids, or for everything, It was all my fault. I mean, I didn't take care of my marriage.
But the couple would be thrust together a year later when tragedy struck.
Singer-actress Claudine Longet faces possible charges in the shooting death of...
Longet shot and killed her new boyfriend, professional skier Spider Savage, in Aspen, Colorado. She claimed the shooting was an accident, but she was put on trial for manslaughter.
You stood by her in the courtroom.
I did, because I thought it was unfair. I thought she was innocent. I thought it was an accident.
Longet was found guilty of misdemeanor negligent homicide and served 30 days in jail. It was not the first time Williams' life had been touched by violence. In the 1960s, he'd become close with Bobby Kennedy.
I wasn't into politics or anything. The only time I got into politics was when he said, "Would you be a delegate for me from California?" And I said, "Sure." And then about 2 weeks later, I called him. I said, I have just thought about this thing. I hope I didn't just screw this all up, because last thing I want to do is make this difficult for you. And he said, "What's the matter? What are you talking about?" I said, "I just realized I'm a Republican."
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. Thank you very much.
After his good friend was assassinated, Williams sang at the funeral. 41 years later, Williams found himself involved with politics in a very different way.
Did you expect to be called out for political views
No,
at this point in your life?
I made a mistake in an interview to the press in London.
A few weeks ago, as Williams set out to promote his new book, an article in a British newspaper said Williams accused President Obama of following a Marxist theory and wanting the country to fail.
So I had to backtrack a little there because, you know, he is the most charismatic man that we've ever had, I guess, since John F. Kennedy in a political office. But I should have just left it at that, you know, and instead of saying, I think he's taking our country in the wrong direction.
Usually, Williams can be found far away from controversy at home in Branson. He and wife Debbie, they married in 1991, live in a large lakeside house just minutes from his Moon River Theater.
And then this is my favorite little Picasso.
They filled the house with art he's collected over the years.
And I look at him every...
He does. He walks through the house at night before we go to bed, and he truly
really
loves his pieces.
And he has embraced his father's dream and passion, singing. Williams still draws a crowd, so there's no thought about retiring.
As long as I'm singing well. I don't want to get out there and people say, oh, he isn't, you know, like he used to be, or he isn't as good.
Would you know, or would someone tell you, do you think?
When they start booing.
By that measure, Andy Williams ought to be crooning for a long time to come.
Still to come, not a yo-yo in the bunch.
Cody, the doctor is ready to see you. I got good news. You need more fiber. Huh? Don't worry, it tastes great. Fruit Loops now with 3 grams of fiber. It makes your tummy happy, so it can absorb the good stuff you need, which your mom's gonna love. It does taste great. Fiber is a great way to keep you healthy. I can never read these things. Kellogg's Fruit Loops and Applejack cereals now provide fiber. Kellogg's makes fiber fun.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
If you buy the renegade idea that investing should be discussed face-to-face, not just inbox to inbox.
If you believe that your relationship with your investments shouldn't be long distance.
If you hold the wild-eyed theory that nest eggs, like children, should never be left with strangers.
Join the nearly 7 million investors who think like you do. FaceTime and Think Time make a difference.
Join us.
At Edward Jones, it's how we make sense of investing.
You ready to change your life forever?
The critics are talking.
Thank you very much.
The fans are tweeting.
I'll take you away. I'm very flattered.
And you should be watching.
I can fix your heart. The rest is up to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A new 3 Rivers, tonight, only CBS.
Here's a look at the week just passed by the numbers. Government bookkeepers say the federal budget deficit for the fiscal year that ended September 30th was $1.42 trillion. That is the biggest deficit ever. Works out to more than $4,700 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. From bookkeeping to books. Have a Little Faith by Mitch Albom is the hardcover nonfiction bestseller for the second week. The thriller The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown remains on top in the fiction category.
You didn't see that coming?
Where the Wild Things Are is the projected #1 movie this weekend. Estimated box office take, $35 million. 3 by Britney Spears is tops on the music charts. And the CBS crime drama NCIS, once again, was the #1 TV show.
Did you hear us calling your name at any time? You did?
As you might expect, an appearance by Falcon Henny, the balloon boy, was one of the most viewed videos on YouTube.
We did this for the show.
TV's Marge Simpson marked the 20th anniversary of her family's show with an appearance on the cover of Playboy. Not to mention a fold-out photo spread inside, and of course, an interview. And in honor of the 30th anniversary of Sunday Morning, Karen and Dave Peterson's Bloomsbury Farm in Atkins, Iowa, has created this 10-acre cornfield maze, proving the point we try to make every week, that there's always something new under the sun. Size matters. Next Sunday morning.
While I was building my friendships, my family, while I was building my life, my high cholesterol was contributing to plaque buildup in my arteries. That's why my doctor prescribed Crestor. She said plaque buildup in arteries is a real reason to lower cholesterol, and that along with diet, Crestor does more than lower bad cholesterol. It raises good. Crestor is also proven to slow the buildup of plaque in arteries. Crestor isn't for everyone, like people with liver disease or women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. Simple blood tests will check for liver problems. You should tell your doctor about other medicines you are taking, or if you have muscle pain or weakness, that could be a sign of serious side effects. While you've been building your life, plaque may have been building in your arteries. Find out more about slowing the buildup of plaque at Crestor.com. Then ask your doctor if it's time for Crestor.
If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
The secret to better hair color? Garnier Nutrice. With a separate grapeseed oil concentrate, Nutrice starts nourishing while you color. For richer, more radiant color. Garnier Nutrice. Nourished hair, better color. Garnier.
Sweet and sour-filled Twizzlers. The new twist you can't resist.
Now your card comes with a way to plan for what matters to you. Introducing Blueprint. Blueprint is free and only for Chase customers. It lets you choose what purchases you want to pay in full to avoid interest, with full pay. And those you split, you decide how to pay over time. If having a plan matters, chase what matters. Create your own blueprint at chase.com/blueprint.
We heard Mo Rocca on the subject of geeks a little earlier. Now with her take is contributor Faith Saley.
This past summer, I attended Comic-Con, the annual sci-fi, fantasy, gaming, comic book convention, often called the world's biggest geek fest. About 125,000 fans descend on San Diego, many of them dressed as zombies, Spartans, pirates, Klingons, superheroes, and, of course, Darth Vader. It was my first time, so I checked out the website to find some do's and don'ts, such as projectile costume weapons must be rendered inoperable. What fun are inoperable projectiles? I entered this event with preconceptions about what I'd see, and yes, I did see a whole lot of geeks who empirically should not have engaged in spandex. But mostly, I saw moms, seniors, cute kids, bearded dudes, teenagers, blacks, Asians, whites, Hispanics. In other words, a whole bunch of regular folk. And I had this paradoxical revelation. We are all geeks now, which makes geek an endangered species. No longer is a geek identifiable by a pale complexion, black-rimmed glasses, and a bowling shirt that says Nerd World Order. No, geeks are everywhere. And they're cool. Mad Men's John Hamm calls himself a comic book geek. And yes, The Big Bang Theory is a hit show. Even our president says he believes in the final frontier. To geek out is an oft-used verb, as in, sorry I'm late, I totally geeked out in the Paella Pan section of Williams-Sonoma. It's become a way to describe an avid interest without promoting yourself as an expert or wonk. It's more self-deprecating to call yourself a wine geek than a wine snob. Just don't do that thing. But once something becomes cool, it becomes ubiquitous, which kills the cool. So, in order to save the geek, I think we need to thin the herd. Here are a few ways to see if you qualify as a real geek. When you recite the opening of Star Trek verbatim, and it ends with, "To boldly go where no man has gone before," you feel rapturous and ashamed for using a split infinitive. Instead of a fantasy football team, you have a fantasy team, and you're inconsolable when Harry Potter is put on the disabled list. You got kicked out of your high school glee club because you kept replacing jazz hands with Vulcan salutes. Or you've actually been beamed up. Don't mean to brag.
Commentary from Faith Saley. Now to John Dickerson in Washington, filling in for Bob Schieffer on Face the Nation. Good morning, John. What do you have for us?
Good morning, Charlie. Today we have White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel on Afghanistan, healthcare, and the economy. Then we'll get reaction from Republican Senator John Cornyn of Texas. And finally, John Kerry of Massachusetts is in Kabul, Afghanistan.
John Dickerson, thank you. We'll be watching. And ahead now on Sunday morning, they have the world on a string.
Depression is a serious medical condition that can take so much out of you. I feel like I have to wind myself up just to get out of bed. Then, well, I have to keep winding myself up to deal with the sadness, the loss of interest, the trouble concentrating, lack of energy. If depression is taking so much out of you, ask your doctor about Prestique.
Prestique is a prescription medicine proven to treat depression. Prestique is thought to work by affecting the levels of two chemicals in the brain, serotonin and norepinephrine. Tell your doctor right away if your depression worsens or you have unusual changes in mood, behavior, or thoughts of suicide. Antidepressants can increase suicidal thoughts and behaviors in children, teens, and young adults. Prestique is not approved for children under 18. Do not take Prestique with MAOIs. Taking Prestique with NSAID pain relievers, aspirin, or blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all your medications, including those for migraine, to avoid a potentially life-threatening condition. Prestique may cause or worsen high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or glaucoma. Tell your doctor if you have heart disease or before you reduce or stop taking Prestique. Side effects may include nausea, dizziness, and sweating.
For me, Prestique is a key in helping to treat my depression.
Ask your doctor about Prestique.
For all the moments that make every day special, Fancy Feast introduces an entirely new way to celebrate any moment. Fancy Feast appetizers. Simple, high-quality ingredients like wild Alaskan salmon, white meat chicken, or sea bass and shrimp in a delicate broth. Prepared without byproducts or fillers. New Fancy Feast appetizers. Celebrate the moment.
I'm going to do another one of my sleep studies. Advil PM or Tylenol PM. With Advil PM, she's spending less time lying awake with aches and pains and more time asleep. He should switch to Advil PM, the better night's sleep.
In 1970, the music of Philadelphia was killer.
This is my song on the radio.
Without him, you were nothing. New Gold Case tonight, only CBS.
Monday, can Robin pass her citizenship test?
I want to say Jefferson.
Correct. Archie Bunker's neighbor was George Jefferson. Then, girl trouble? Meet the love coach.
Relationships are all about withholding sex.
I think we should get some coffee and talk. Accidentally on purpose after How I Met Your Mother, Monday.
The yo-yo is a toy that has had its ups and downs over the years. Of course it has, but you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till you see the competition our Rita Braver went to.
They come from far and wide. Young and old. Gathering for the biggest event in American Yo-Yo-Dom.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2009 National Yo-Yo Contest, coming to you from Chico, California.
Bob Maloney not only started the first modern National Yo-Yo Championship in 1993, he is also the founder of the National Yo-Yo Museum, created to house his personal collection. There's even this crane-operated 256-pounder.
It is world famous. It's in books. It's in internet attractions. It's amazing.
Yo-yo-like images first show up on this 2,500-year-old Greek vase, and later in 18th century European art. Just where the word yo-yo comes from is unclear, but it was used in the Philippines, homeland of Pedro Flores, an immigrant who started manufacturing and selling yo-yos in California in 1928.
And it was there that Donald Duncan saw the yo-yo. He came back to Pedro Flores and bought the word yo-yo. And so the yo-yo then became owned by the Duncan Company.
Duncan was a master marketer who created an international yo-yo craze.
Spring and a young man's fancy. Demonstrators are mobbed by avid youngsters of all ages.
But in the 80s and 90s, new technology revolutionized yo-yos and inspired a new generation of competition.
What you know about yo-yos, throw it out of your head.
Joseph Harris, 22, a native of Hawaii, is a student at the University of San Francisco. He won last year's national title for this two-handed looping style.
I like to call myself a yo-yo player.
A yo-yo player? Does that go along with like picking up girls and that kind of thing?
You know, a lot of people find it odd that you can serenade women with yo-yos. I've had success.
Serenade women with yo-yos? Take a certain kind of girl, huh?
You laugh. You laugh, but when it happens, it happens.
It happens, okay.
He even made it through a few rounds of America's Got Talent. And now Harris and his fans are ready for this year's contest.
Ow!
So is Paul Yacht. He's a four-time national champion in his event, another style of two-handed play. This 27-year-old son of Cambodian immigrants who works for his family's Long Beach, California clothing company once yo-yoed in a Mountain Dew commercial. Yacht is also a yo-yo manufacturer in his spare time, designing his own version of the new metal yo-yo.